My name is Randy. I'm doing my narrative speech for public speaking, and these are the people that will be watching my speech. This is Ryan, Pam, Bob, and Rebecca. In the summer of 2012, I found myself standing on top of a glacier in the middle of a snowstorm. At the same time, my wife was sitting next to a beautiful waterfall, sipping tea in the summer sun. How did this happen? I'll tell you. At the beginning of 2012, my wife had received a grant to be able to go to Italy and Paris. After I realized this, I got to look at what her plans were. And I saw that the train actually ran from Italy and actually had to go through Switzerland and into Paris. And when I saw this, I asked her if we could possibly spend a couple of days in Italy and if it would be possible to add it to the itinerary. She said yes, and so we started looking for hotels. She ended up finding this hotel that had a waterfall in the background. Anxiously, she ran to me and was like, "Randy, come look at this hotel I have. It has this beautiful waterfall you can see from the balconies." So I came over and I looked at it, and the first thing I noticed was that it had a very small bedroom and a European bathroom. But I went ahead and agreed because I wanted to go to Switzerland and she wanted her nice hotel room underneath the waterfalls. So come May, we end up taking our trip directly to Italy. We land in Rome and see many of the paintings and murals all around Italy. We spent about a week in Italy, going all over the countryside before we slowly made our way through Switzerland. When we made it into Switzerland, it was a huge difference from going from the hills of Tuscany going into large mountains everywhere and lakes. The first place we went was this town named Spitz, and it had this large lake nestled in the mountains. And when we got off the train, we could see that there was many towns right in the valleys next to the mountains. So we got out, we're looking around, and we're looking for this town that has waterfalls. And we couldn't actually see it, even though we could see for miles. So we got back on the train that was going to our next stop. And at this next stop, we would be taking another railway that would take us to this small town. So there we are, we're riding on the train, and we stop in this next town along the lake. And we get off, and I noticed that we're going to a cog railway, which I knew from many times of going to Colorado, that whenever you see a train that's a cog railway, that's going straight up a mountain. So I knew immediately that this is going to be a beautiful train ride. Needless to say, it didn't disappoint. As soon as it got to the top where it was going, we ended up in this beautiful valley that could be called more of like a gorge, because it had these huge granite walls on each side with waterfalls cascading into the valley below. The town that we were stopping in was Lauterbrunnen, and at this town is also where our hotel was. So as soon as I get off the train, we're looking for the hotel and where we're going to head. And then I noticed there's this railway called Jungfrau Top of Europe. And I mentioned it to my wife. I'm like, this would be really neat if we were able to go to this railway all the way to the top. But my wife was really excited to see her hotel with the balcony. So we were talking about it. She's like, well, I think I would rather be relaxing on my balcony and watching this waterfall rather than riding a train for 4 hours. So we had decided that if the weather was beautiful in the morning, I would actually ride the train while Becky, or my wife, would be sitting there enjoying her tea. So needless to say, about 12 hours later, I wake up at 5:30 a.m. I open the curtains on the hotel room, and what do I see? A beautiful blue sky. And so I kiss my wife goodbye and I run to the train. And I get to the train, there was a bunch of early bird risers ready to go, but I was able to get on. So, as we're riding the train up, we go through the whole tree line and all the beautiful forests, and we stop at this train station that's just above the train line. And the town that I was located in was named Kleinstede. And it was right around where all the tundra is around this train station. The next train that we're getting onto is this train that goes into the mountains. And it actually goes in this tunnel for many miles and stops inside the train station at the top that's named Jungfrau Top of Europe. So I get on the train and I go through this very long, dark tunnel ride all the way to the top of the train station. And when I get out, I notice that there's all these windows just outside of this large tunnel area. And when I look out, I see that it's actually a large glacier right outside this window. And you can see, as far as you can see, this glacier that runs in between the mountains like a river. Excited, I start looking for where it would be. And I ask some people, but they mention that there's a storm coming in. And I look out the window again, and I can actually see that there's this black clouds coming over. Excited, though, to be able to have one chance to be able to go on a glacier, I don't let the storm deter me. So I find my way out, and I eventually get to where I'm actually on the snow outside. Not being dressed for it, I kind of thought maybe I shouldn't run to this viewpoint over here. But I decide otherwise and I go. By the time I run to this lookout point, the snowstorm has already come in and it's snowing all over the place. Not being very well dressed for it, I still made my way to it. And when I look out, it turns out that this lookout point actually looks out over Lauterbrunnen. And what do I see? I see that it's actually sunny over Lauterbrunnen while I'm standing here inside this snowstorm. But it turned out all the clouds are actually stuck on the side of the mountain. So I'm looking down and I can see that where our hotel is, that Becky is able to be sitting there drinking tea by our waterfall in the sun while I'm standing on top of this glacier in a snowstorm. Thank you for listening to my speech.
Good.